This work of fiction is intended for mature audiences. It contains themes of psychological horror and violence presented in a restrained manner. All characters and events are entirely fictional. The narrative is not intended to glorify or encourage harmful behavior.
I was born into a world that whispered of neglect and isolation, a place where the weight of sorrow masked the possibility of hope. In my youth, the conditions of my surroundings seeped into my core of my soul. I learned early that beauty could hide hideous secrets, and that pain was a constant companion. I recall the first time I encountered the fragile allure of a young woman. Her eyes, dark and mysterious, had stirred and awakened something deep inside me, an urge that I could not understand. In that moment, I realized that my existence was destined to walk a path apart from the ordinary and into the darkness. Growing up in a place where compassion was scarce, I became an observer of human vulnerability. I wandered the city streets, noticing every nuance of emotion and every moment of quiet despair. Life, I discovered, was a delicate balance between hope and inevitable decay of the spirit. I never learned the gentle arts of love or empathy. Instead, I absorbed the lessons taught by neglect and abandonment. In this silent education, I began to see that every human life held a hidden story of suffering and profound regret. The allure of these hidden truths became an obsession, a dark calling that could not be ignored. My first encounter with the act of taking a life was not born of instinct alone, but rather as a calculated response to the emptiness that plagued me. I recall the solemn quiet of that night, the stillness that filled the air as I led my unsuspecting companion away from the safety of her family. There was a deliberate calmness in my approach, a sense of inevitability that replaced fleeting emotions with a steadfast purpose. In the moments that followed, the details of my actions unfolded with a chilling precision. I remember not every vivid detail, but rather the overwhelming certainty that I had embarked on a journey from which I could never return. Every encounter was a ritual, a private confrontation between the darkness within me and the fleeting light of my human fragility. I came to believe that every act of cruelty was, in its own twisted way, an attempt to bring order to a world overwhelmed by madness. I was convinced that the wounds I inflicted, though severe, were the only honest marks left in a society that had lost its moral bearings. Society would label me a monster, but to me, I was only fulfilling an unavoidable destiny, the dark mirror of a world that had abandoned its innocence so long ago. In search of a canvas broad enough for my inner turmoil, I left the familiar confines of my hometown and traveled deep into the heart of South America. This vast and varied land became both my refuge and my hunting ground, a realm where ancient legends and modern despair coexisted in silent harmony. I moved through cities and remote towns, each locale offering its own unique backdrop to the quiet terror that I would spread. In Brazil, the contrast of vibrant culture and underlying strife struck me immediately. The bustling urban favelas, with their narrow alleys and hidden corners, provided the anonymity I needed. I observed the people there like a quiet scholar, studying habits, noting vulnerabilities, and then biding my time. The subtle trust of strangers was something I learned to dismantle innocently, carefully. A friendly word, a gentle invitation, and soon the veil of comfort would be lifted, revealing the raw edge of their existence. There was a delicate balance in these interactions, a slow slide from ordinary conversation into a moment of irrevocable and complete isolation. I recall one night along a quiet riverbank, a woman seeking escape from her burdens trusted me enough to share a walk and confide in me. In that quiet moment, I recognized an opportunity to act, a moment of transformation where a routine evening stroll would forever be changed into a final nightmare. Argentina offered a different kind of challenge. In the vast open spaces of its countryside and the silent remnants of ancient ruins, I found a stage that demanded both caution and subtlety. The myths and legends of lost civilizations provided a symbolic resonance to my own dark narrative. In a small town near Mendoza, I encountered a lovely woman whose gentle spirit seemed to embody the grace of forgotten eras. With careful planning, I engaged her in conversation, slowly drawing her away from the familiar and into a secluded refuge where I could impose my own will upon her. Every encounter was methodical, a delicate negotiation between the allure of companionship and the inevitable descent into darkness and cruel intent. The journey across South America was not merely geographical, it was an exploration into the depths of my own infidelity. Each new environment offered lessons in restraint and adaptation. Whether in the sultry nights of Brazil or the cool, expansive evenings of Argentina, I learned to blend in, to become both a part of the crowd and yet forever apart from it also. My actions became an integral part of the local folklore, a whispered caution in the night, a shadow that moved silently among the ruins. I was the dark enigma that defied easy explanation, a ghostly presence whose influence was felt long after I had vanished into the night, after cruelly dispatching a life. Every act I committed was more than a mere expression of violence. It was a carefully planned ritual, a carefully orchestrated performance that revealed the inner workings of my disturbed mind. I developed a method that was as much about psychological control as it was about physical discomfort and supreme dominance. My tools were not only instruments of dispatchment, but symbols of a personal philosophy that sought to impose order on chaos in the mind and body. I was fascinated by the responses of the human body and mind when faced with the unknown and unabated pain. I observed how fear could alter a person's demeanor, how the final moments could become a silent dialogue between life and the inevitability of its end. My approach was never about hurried brutality. It was a slow, deliberate process of breaking down the barriers of trust until nothing remained but the raw essence of fear and acceptance of one's fate. I especially prided myself on my precise precision that left little to chance, a series of calculated steps that were executed with forethought, purpose, and absolute detachment. One encounter remains etched in my memory, a reminder of the subtle art of persuasion and the quiet inevitability of my chosen path. On a humid evening, I befriended a troubled woman by offering her words of solace in a world that had offered her little in the way of hope. I gained her confidence with gentle conversation and an empathetic ear. Then, in a private moment away from prying eyes, I revealed the darkness that lay beneath the veneer of my calm. The process was measured, a transformation of trust into isolation, a soft descent into a reality where only my presence was undeniable. In the quiet aftermath, there was no frantic struggle, only the resignation of one who had seen the end of their story and had longed to embrace it and end her suffering at last. The scene was arranged with a deliberate care, each moment a testament to the transformation of life into a final, quiet, silent ending. Though I never wished to glorify the moments of pain, I could not ignore the stark clarity they brought. Each act was a reminder that beneath the surface of human civilization lay a fragile boundary, one that could shatter with the slightest push or pull. I believed that in embracing these moments, I was revealing a truth that many preferred to keep hidden. The truth that life, in all its fleeting beauty, was constantly threatened by the ever-present possibility of decay and dispatchment at any second, for any reason, or for no reason at all. Living a double life allowed me to refine the balance between normalcy and the extraordinary darkness that defined my existence. By day, I blended into society, a quiet, unassuming figure among the throngs of everyday life. By night, I became something else entirely, the embodiment of my inner void, a silent force that left an indelible mark on those unfortunate enough to cross my path or gain my favor. I moved through crowded streets with the ease of one who had mastered the art of invisibility. Every passing smile, every whispered conversation served as a reminder of the life I had once yearned to be part of. A life that had been stripped away by the relentless pull into the abyss. In moments of solitude, in the silent corners of abandoned buildings and forgotten spaces, I found the freedom to confront the true nature of my existence. Here, the boundaries between my public persona and my private true self blurred, revealing the duality that lay at the heart of my persona. The allure of the hunt, the thrill of exerting control, was a siren call that I could not ignore. It was not the desire for physical dominance that drove me, but a deeper, more complex need to assert my existence in a world that had long dismissed me as nothingness. In the quiet aftermath of each encounter, I experienced a sense of release, of climax, a fleeting moment of clarity in which the chaos of life was replaced by a simple, if disturbing, predetermined order. My actions, though horrifying to many, were for me a way to reclaim control over a reality that had once seemed too uncaring and overwhelming. I began to see my deeds as part of a larger, inevitable, unearthly pattern. A cycle in which the darkness within was both a destructive force and a catalyst for understanding. I was not simply enacting cruelty for cruelty's sake. I was participating in a dialogue with the world about the nature of fear, loss, and the inevitable decay that finds its way into every human life. In every carefully planned encounter, I was questioning the moral foundations of society, challenging the notion that order and goodness were the only truths, the only constant in an unruly world. Yet even as I embraced this duality, I could not escape the realization that my actions had left permanent scars on both my victims and myself. The faces of those I had dispatched haunted my thoughts, a persistent echo in the corridors of my mind. Each life touched by my presence was a reminder of the fine line between order and chaos, between the veneer of normalcy and the raw, unfiltered reality that lay just beneath, waiting to come out and play. Now, as I lie on the bed of my final hours, I am compelled to share my truth. These words are not an attempt to seek forgiveness, for there is no absolution for the choices I made. Instead, they are a testament, a final declaration of my conflicted existence that defined me. In my long journey, I came to understand that darkness is not something external that only haunts from the shadows. It is a part of all of us, lurking behind every carefully constructed facade we offer to the unseeing world. I committed my deeds not solely to exert control, but as a desperate dialogue with my own inner emptiness. Each act was a confrontation with the void that had shaped my life, a way to force a response from a world that had offered little in the way of empathy, redemption, or reparations of any kind. Now as I face my end, the memories of every encounter converge into a single, haunting truth. I was never simply a harbinger of terror. I was a man consumed by the search for meaning in a realm where light and dark exist in a constant dichotomy. The legacy of my actions is not meant to inspire imitation, but rather to serve as a stark reminder of the fragility of our moral boundaries. In these final moments, I ask you to remember that the darkness within is not a distant myth, but a living and thriving part of our shared human experience. a part that must be acknowledged if we are ever to understand the true nature of our complex existence. To those who read this confession, I offer no solace and no instruction, only the truth. The line between man and monster is perilously thin, and the abyss within each of us is ever waiting to be activated and set free. My words are my legacy, a reminder that every life, no matter how ordinary, carries within it the potential for profound transformation, both beautiful and horrific. As I draw my final breath, I leave you with a question. When you look into the mirror of your own soul, do you dare to see the darkness that lies within you? For in every heart, the potential for both light and darkness resides, and it is up to each of us to decide which will ultimately define our story and which we will willingly feed. Even as my final moments approach, know that the whispers of my journey will linger, a quiet echo in the corridors of time and space, a reminder of the fine line between order and chaos. My confession is not a celebration of cruelty, but a somber narrative of a man who lost himself in the void. May it serve as a cautionary tale, urging each of us to confront and quiet the shadows within before they consume us entirely.
Hello, my Nightmare Obsession fans. We hope you loved this story, and were almost frightened to death, left wanting even more. If so, please share video and our channel link with friends and family, and ask them to subscribe, like, comment, and share with their friends and family too. We really want to create more nightmarish horror stories for you, so please be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe to our channel now. We would really appreciate it. Thanks so much.